Hi everyone, this is Andy Nguyen, and today we're going to be doing a quick little user experience review of the Durgod Hades 68. This is a pre-built 65% mechanical keyboard, RGB enabled, USB-C, and all the good stuff. Stay tuned. So to get started, this video is in no way sponsored. I just wanted to give you a quick little user experience from the perspective of an engineer, a content creator that's using this as their primary keyboard. They're not going back to a full-size keyboard, not going back to a TKL keyboard, just using this compact keyboard. And if you're unfamiliar with 60 or 65% keyboards, feel free to click one of the buttons in the top corners where I go through a quick little explainer as to what they are and how they can be useful. This keyboard right here is different from a typical 60% keyboard because there's actually dedicated arrow keys and some navigation buttons on the right side. And with that comes with better functionality and ergonomics, ease of use that may be more useful for a larger number of people. So this right here is the retail packaging. I've repackaged it for the purposes of this video, but I've been using it for 2 weeks now while I've been building my custom keyboard. In this box, there's a few little goodies. You have a quick start guide, the keyboard itself. Ignore the bags. There were cables in there, but they gave you a USB-A to USB-C cable. And for you MacBook users, they have a USB-C to USB-C, a little Velcro cable tie, and a keycap puller. And this is useful because you're most likely going to want to change the keycaps as soon as you can. Let's get this out of the way. We just need the main cable. Let's take this keyboard out. There it is. Let's plug this in so you can see how the RGB looks. And while I do this, I want to mention that the USB-C port is recessed into the case, so you may have some issue using third-party cables. All right, so here's the keyboard. It looks amazing, and I love it because it feels very solid in the hand. Let's get started with a quick little overview of the specifications of this keyboard. Let's start from the very top. The keycaps are unfortunately laser-etched ABS keycaps. They're the lower quality keycaps between ABS and PBT, so they're thinner plastic, and laser-etched refers to the legends on the keycaps, and because of this, it will likely fade over time over use. So they're not going to be permanently on there. The alternative is double shot, where the legends themselves are molded into the keycap, so they will never fade. These will fade over time, but along with the fading will come kind of shining due to the ABS plastic. So basically these are cheaper keycaps, but the good thing about them is that the legend font is very clean and the backlit comes through really nicely. So we move on from that, let's pull out the keycap puller. What I have in this board are Cherry MX Brown switches, and they are the most commonly recommended mechanical switch for beginners because they're good at most things. They're a little bit tactile, they're a little bit silent. They're not too clicky like Cherry MX Blues, which are the switch that most people think of when they hear mechanical keyboard. So I really like the typing experience on this. Let's use the mic to get a little quick ASMR typing test, sound test of the Durgod Hades 68 with the Cherry MX Browns. Fully stock, no modifications done. In terms of the layout of this keyboard, this is a very typical 65% keyboard layout. It's a standard Tada 68 keyboard layout. It's a little bit difficult to get third-party keycaps for this because it's not fully standard key layout, but it is common. So if you just move up one level and go into websites such as Mechanical Keyboards or directly from Taihao, you can get them for very cheap. The good thing about the Durgod Hades 68 is that you're not locked to Cherry MX switches. Cherry MX are the original keyboard switches, and they had a patent on the switches for a long time, but once the patent expired, a lot of other companies came and made their own switches. So for the Durgod Hades 68, you can get KL switches, you can get Gateron switches. These tend to be a little bit cheaper and have a different experience. If you're looking for something other than the standard Cherry MX red, black, blue, or brown switches, look into this keyboard because you can try out different key switches without having to go a full custom board. Beneath the key switches is the PCB and the plate. This board comes with a silver aluminum plate, and that silver allows the RGB to reflect back up, which is really nice because as you can see here, this RGB is amazing. The RGB backlighting on this board is pretty nice. I really like this setting because the color emanates from the center and it goes outward. I haven't seen that stock from any other keyboards on Amazon, so I really like the aesthetics of this board. Of course, RGB isn't for everyone, but for me, I like the splash of color, keep things interesting because I work as an engineer, and in that field, a lot of things are kind of bland, so this gives a little pop to my workday. The aluminum plate also adds to the rigidity of the board, so I can twist it and there will be very minimal flex, and the case itself is also aluminum. A lot of production boards on Amazon are made from plastic cases. This saves on cost because most people don't need aluminum keyboards. Most people probably don't even want aluminum keyboards. Standard keyboards are plastic, so getting a keyboard that is as heavy as an aluminum case may be a turnoff for some people. But what comes with aluminum is a very solid feel in the hand and also changes the acoustics of the switches. So when typing, I prefer the acoustics coming out of an aluminum board because the sounds sound a little bit deeper and fuller. One of the drawbacks of an aluminum board, if not dampened correctly or if it's a cheaper aluminum board or a cheaper mounting system, you'll hear a little bit of ping in the switches. And unfortunately, ping, if you can identify it and you're sensitive to it, is something that is very irritating to the ear and maybe a deal breaker for some. Like I mentioned prior, the ping, there is foam in the case itself. And I learned this from Teha Keyboards, that the foam, he did a comparison, it doesn't make too much of a difference in terms of the ping. It doesn't really help or hurt the ping, it's just kind of there. It's very thin and it looks like it's cut pretty roughly. If you go with this board, you get the benefit of the rigidity and the feel and the acoustics of the aluminum case, but you also get the drawback of the ping. And in terms of stabilizers, this keyboard does that right. These stabilizers are lubed from the factory and they feel very nice. They sound very nice. Typically, when you want to kind of critique or review stabilizers, they are under the Shift, Spacebar, Enter, and Backspace key. I can show you right here. So over here, so these two black things right here, they are the stabilizers. Essentially, they keep the keycap from leaning left or right, keeps them in the middle. And if they're poor stabilizers and not lubed, they'll be rattly and add a lot of undesirable noise to the typing experience. For a pre-production board, this is pretty good. There is some scratchiness to the Cherry MX switches, but that is something only enthusiasts will be able to pick up on, and that is definitely not the market for this keyboard. I believe this is for the typical user that wants to try a keyboard that's different from a full-size keyboard or a TKL keyboard, and it doesn't necessarily want to go to the 60% keyboard route, which is very difficult to learn because of all the macros required. Another question that I get often is, what keyboards have Bluetooth? And unfortunately, most of the popular mechanical keyboards do not have Bluetooth enabled, but a few of them do, such as the And Pro 2 and the Akko keyboards. So look into those if you need Bluetooth, but this board is wired use only. So what about changing the macros on this board? Well, the good thing about this board is that there's software. This is great for beginners. The software is a visual interface that shows you all the keys and all the options that you can replace those keys with. You can also change the RGB via software, and there's a preview live that you can see before you flash that to the board. And the one benefit that this board has over its competition is that you can change the base layer. What I mean by base layer is the first layer on the board. So when you hit Q, you get Q. When you hit Enter, you get Enter. When you hit Backspace, you get Backspace. That is a base layer. That is very important when you look at the keys on the right. Home, Delete, Page Up, Page Down. When you hit those, you get those. In terms of changing the base layer, in the software, you can change the home to delete. And for page up and page down, if you don't often go through websites and use page up and page down, you can just change that to a dedicated volume button. On other keyboards, you have to hold down function to get that function layer, and that's when you can change the macros. With this board, you can change the base layer, the function layer, and the function 2 layer, give you a lot more customization that other boards don't have. And in terms of the software, it doesn't have to be running for you to have your customization. You can just change the settings and then flash that to your board. So when you take your board, unplug it, and bring it somewhere else, let's say to work, you'll still have your key map settings and even RGB settings. So the most important deciding factor is the price per performance ratio. This keyboard, if you get the Gateron or Kale box switches, it's only $110. This may be expensive when compared to other brands such as Logitech, Corsair, or Razer, but this board has a lot going for it. You get the aluminum case, you get the aluminum plate, the great RGB, the custom macros via software, the USB-C. It's a great package. I love the fit and finish. I love the heft. It feels quality. The only drawback for me is the laser etched ABS keycaps that will inevitably need to be replaced, but maybe not now. maybe you can push that purchase off to later. So to the actual day-to-day usage. For work, I definitely prefer having a 65% keyboard minimum because I need to have the arrow keys. If I learned how to use the macros IJKL or WASD, but if someone has to come over to my keyboard and do something quickly on the computer, not having arrow keys may be very difficult and very annoying to either tell them that they have to hold down a button to do this or that, or I have to do it for them. I'd rather have something a little bit more universal and useful for most people. And for personal use, when I edit videos, the arrow keys are really useful. When I do editing in Adobe Premiere, I'm often moving clips over frame by frame, and I can do it using IJKL, but if I let go of function or let go of caps lock a little bit too early, then I end up doing something I don't want to do. It's annoying to have to Control Z all the time, especially if I'm using WASD, which is a little bit more ergonomic and useful for me. My delete button in Adobe Premiere is D. So having WASD, and if I let go too early and I'm deleting the clip rather than moving it, it becomes a drag. I tried it for 2 or 3 weeks, and I tried this for 2 weeks, and I believe this is the better kind of layout for me. I believe this is going to apply to most people as well. Giving up the number pad is one thing, but giving up the arrow keys may be too much of a transition right away. The standout features of this keyboard for me would be the aluminum case, the silver aluminum plate that adds rigidity, but also helps highlight the RGB of the keyboard. So let's just quickly run through the RGB options on this keyboard. So to change it, you just hold function 2. This is to turn it on. This is my favorite setting where the color emanates from the center. We have a breathing setting. And this is rainbow emanating from which key you press. Solid color, I like teal, so I picked teal. This is a circular rainbow effect that you see on a lot of keyboards. And back to the breathing rainbow. The standout features of this keyboard for me would be the aluminum case, the silver aluminum plate that adds rigidity, but also helps highlight the RGB of the keyboard, the various switch options, because maybe the Cherry MX switches aren't for you. Being able to get a little bit more customization and still get a pre-built board is a really nice thing to have, especially if you can order it from Amazon. Because if you don't like it, you can just return it, and that's an important thing to know, especially for mechanical keyboards, because if you're stuck with a switch you don't like and it costs money to return it, that scares away most people from even ever trying mechanical keyboards. Customization is great, being able to move the nav cluster around and setting custom keys full-time without having to hold down a function key is a lifesaver and really allows me to customize the keyboard to my needs. So things that can be improved. We have to talk about the keycaps. Laser etched ABS keycaps are not the greatest, and I personally don't like the typing experience on them. So it's something that most people will want to upgrade. But unfortunately, if you're buying a pre-built keyboard, you kind of just want it to work out of the box. That's why you buy a pre-built keyboard. If you want the customization, most people would rather go to a full custom build. So in regards to things that can be improved, I definitely think they could have upgraded the laser etched ABS keycaps to something like a double shot PPT keycap. Of course, you can upgrade this yourself, but that is added cost, time, and just labor that most people are unwilling to do. That alone may scare some people off. And when comparing this to my favorite 60% keyboard, I prefer the feel on my fingers of that keyboard because of the double shot PBT keycaps. It just feels a lot more quality. The acoustics are a little bit different because it's not an aluminum case. Over hours of usage, it just feels nicer on that keyboard. But of course, it doesn't have arrow keys, so that is the more important factor to consider. So my final takeaways. This board is definitely the board to get if you want a 60% keyboard with arrow keys or a 65% keyboard. Despite the drawbacks of having laser etched ABS keycaps, despite the drawbacks of having ping, these things are just going to be something you may have to accept buying your pre-built board. You're not going to get something in this price bracket with an aluminum case that has everything that makes it the most quality keyboard. That's going to be something that you get in custom keyboards. So something that can be ordered from Amazon, this is definitely the board to get. But if you can live without the arrow keys, I do recommend looking into the Ducky 1-2 Mini. That is a lighter package, a more polished package, and it's a complete package. But for me, I really need the arrow keys. I learned that over weeks of usage with the Ducky 1-2 Mini. So for me, I'm willing to live with the drawbacks such as the laser etched ABS keycaps and the slight ping in the case. But for me, I definitely know I need the arrow keys, so I'm willing to live with the drawbacks of the laser etched ABS keycaps and the slight pinging in the board, because it's such a good value that it's hard to argue. And if you truly want to customize your experience and get the best experience possible, you should really look into custom keyboards. In my little studio office situation, I do have a Mass Drop Alt that I've customized and upgraded. I also have a full custom keyboard, the KBD Fans KBD 67 Mark II, that I'm working on building right now. So if you want to learn more about those keyboards in the custom keyboard community, make sure you click the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any updates from me. If you liked this video, please give me a like. Please talk in the comment section below if you have any questions on this board or any other boards that I've mentioned. And thank you for hanging out with me today. I just love nerding out about nerd stuff, tech stuff, all this other stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video.